Well, not yet, anyway.
Right, Jaffa cakes. Thank you.
Well, not yet, anyway.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Whitman. How are you this morning, I should say? Good afternoon, Whitman. How are you? I'm not sure whether you've managed to get your screen into gallery view. If not, if you go to the top where there's sort of like, it says view, if you click on that, you should see gallery view. So you should be seeing 9 of us.
Yep.
Okay. And how are things this morning in the Cayman Islands?
Bright and sunny and hot.
Oh.
Oh.
That's not what we want to hear.
No.
Is that like yesterday and probably like tomorrow as well?
Yeah. Especially this time of year.
Okay, I'll introduce you to the team first, Whitman. They'll give you a little bit about what their role is going to be today and also a little bit of their background. Obviously, we've met previously, so we'll start on my one with Kevin.
Hiya, Kevin Trust, 35 years ex-West Sussex Fire and Rescue Service, predominantly operations. Today, I'll be your tactical fire commander dealing with the incident, and I'll be giving you a brief just because before you go into your NEOC for your strategic meeting. So I look forward to working with you.
Okay.
What I should have said as well, Whitman, because obviously your key role at the moment is with the Airport Fire Service, isn't it? Kevin also had responsibility for Gatwick as the director of ops for the response from West Sussex to Gatwick Airport. So he shares that affinity with you.
We can talk aircraft later on.
All right.
And now somebody that's nearest they've been to an aircraft is sticking a fuel lead in a helicopter is Dave Shepherd.
Yeah. Hello, Whitman. Dave Shepherd. I'm going to be your command support stroke logist today, so I'll be sitting alongside you throughout the incident. So anything you need, I'll be there to try and make it happen for you. My background is that I was 28 years in the fire service and a bit of time in the military before that, and I used to specialise in ship firefighting. Whether that becomes relevant or not, you'll have to wait and see.
We'll see on that. So we'll then go through to Martin.
Hello, Whitman. Martin Still, ex-Kent Fire and Rescue Service in the UK. Today I'll be playing the Port Authority Gold.
And then Terry, please.
Yeah, hi Whitman. Terry Webb, ex-Essex Fire Service, and I'm also in my 30th year of lifeboating. I'll be playing the Coast Guard today, so that may give you some sort of clue. Have a great simulation and enjoy the process. Look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
And then Paul.
Hi Whitman, I'm Paul Evans. I'm ex-East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service, and I'm going to be your ambulance goal today. And good luck.
Thank you. Steve.
Yeah, morning Whitman. My name's Steve Buck, previously Royal Berkshire and London Fire Brigade, 31 years service. Today I'll be your police goal commander. Look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
Right, thank you, Steve. And last but by no means least, Dean.
Yeah, morning, Whitman. Dean Dewey. 30 years in the same service as Kevin. Ironically, back in 1982, my first station was the one that serves Gatwick. So I think that was a dim and distant past. My role today will be a maritime role. So you're starting to get a bit of a clue as to which way this is going to go, perhaps. So hope it all goes well and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, role players. If you would now like to leave. Okay, so what's going to happen now is I'll shortly brief you on the scenario. I'll give you some details about what's involved. I'll give you the background to the incident and the calls and what's been going on. And then I'll show you a short video clip so that you're aware of what the incident is that you're attending. You will then be asked to attend the NEOC as the Fire Gold Commander, but to take over chairing of that first meeting of the NEOC. Before you go into that meeting, though, to make sure that you've got sufficient situational awareness for that meeting, you will meet with Kevin and Dave, and Kevin, as the on-scene fire commander, will give you a brief of what's happening and what the incident is, so that you've got some good information on that. And then anything else you want from Dave, they can do. You'll then go to the meeting that's been called of the NEOC with all the partner agencies there, and you will be asked to chair that meeting. But we're looking at you to do that using some of the tools that you've been shown over the last couple of days, particularly using the joint decision model. Have you got a copy of that to hand?
Yeah. Yeah.
Particularly that wheel to go around that incident information, risk information. Don't worry if you get a little bit lost on that. Dave, as your logist, will help you as well on
Sure.
that. Okay. So we're looking at you managing that meeting and dealing with the incident. And if you need to break to get yourself some discretionary time or to go and deal with some of the actions, then that's fine, you can do that. So we'll go through that. And again, we're also looking for, as you've covered, those joint decision controls. Why are we doing this? What do we think will happen? Those decision controls for any difficult decisions that you will need to be making and to get your partner buy-in. That'll go on for about an hour and a half, something like that. We'll then break for a coffee, stop, go and grab a comfort break and a coffee, and then we'll come back for the debrief. We'll ask you how you found it, and then we'll get some feedback from each of the role players. Any questions at this stage?
Let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. Okay then. So as you probably realised, there's going to be a maritime incident. So this is involving a cruise ship called the Celebrity Millennium. It's a passenger cruise ship of 90,228 tons. It has an overall length of 294 metres. It has a draft of 8.2 metres and a beam of 32 metres. It has a capacity for 2,034 passengers. It has 14 decks, 11 of which are for passengers. It has 1,117 cabins. Some of those have private balconies, 464. And then on the upper decks, it's got 58 private suites, all with private balconies. It's got 3 restaurants, 8 bars, 6 jacuzzis and 3 swimming pools, as well as gym, treatment room, saunas and Turkish baths. The normal ones you'd expect on these big cruise ships. Pool deck with retractable glass roof, multi-purpose sports pitches, jogging tracks, theatres on 3 levels, casino, disco, and virtual world and children's club. So very typical large cruise ship. The timeline for the incident just after 7:30 this morning at your time, so half an hour ago. It's 8 o'clock, isn't it? It's just gone 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just after just before 7:30 this morning, Station 1 domestic, Tanker 1, Ladder 1, RIV and RIB were mobilised to the cruise terminal, Harbour Drive, to reports of the fire alarm sounding on the Celebrity Millennium passenger ship, which is anchored in the harbour. And the tactical commander was informed. On attendance, the initial incident commander reported they could see a serious fire involving the upper passenger decks on the Celebrity Millennium, a passenger ship of approximately 90,000 tons anchored in the harbour, multiple persons trapped, and the tactical commander was mobilised. The tactical commander assumed incident commander and asked for all available resources to be mobilised to the RVP, which is at the cruise terminal, Harbour Drive. Put back the message that multiple persons are trapped, 10 breathing apparatus in use, tactical mode Oscar offensive for savable life, and because of the nature of the call, aviation pumps 1 and 2 and rescue launch 1 was also mobilised for manpower, and that's downgraded the Owen Roberts Airport to Cat 0 now. We've got a tactical commander onshore, which is Kevin Trust, and he's put back an informative that Cayman Island Fire Service firefighters are on board assisting ships' firefighting crews, 13 BA in use, 5 male adults, 3 female adults and 2 children have been rescued and removed from the ship with smoke inhalation. And then we've got Ladder 2 and Ladder 3 and Tanker 2 has been mobilised from Station 2 and 3.
Can you say the persons that were?
Yeah,
rescued
13
again?
BA, 5 male adults and 3 female adults and 2 children.
Okay.
Now we've stood up the National Emergency Operations Centre, the NEOC is being established, and all the relevant gold commanders are being asked to attend. So you are being asked to attend to take on the role of chair, as it's a fire incident, and to be the gold commander. We've just had a message from the onshore tactical commander that the offshore tactical commander that the ship is being evacuated using onboard lifeboats, and the passengers will disembark at the cruise terminal. The onshore fire commander is going to come to the NEOC to brief you because it's quite a complex incident. So when you're ready, I'll show you a short video clip now. So we've got some video footage of the incident. We've also got from social media some footage taken actually on board the vessel as well.
Okay.
That's the lifeboat starting to leave the vessel. Okay, any questions now?
Okay, so we start assembling from now.
So yeah, so you're now going to meet your onshore commander, which is Kevin, and your logist, Dave.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, women.
Morning, Kevin.
I'll give you, I'm your tactical commander onshore. When you're ready, I can give you a bit of a brief in relation to what we've got at the moment. I've just come here just to brief you prior to you going into your meeting. Are you ready to receive a brief from me?
Ready.
Okay. I've been in attendance at the South Cruise Terminal where we've got the forward command point set up. I've been there for about 10-15 minutes. We've got a major fire on the ship, which we believe to have started in a cabin on deck 6, and it's spread to other cabins on that deck. Deck 6 is heavily smoke logged, and we've been told there's a number of people trapped in cabins on that deck. From deck 7 up, at the moment, the smoke logging is less severe, but it's still an issue. The ship's first officer has confirmed that decks 8 to 11 have been evacuated, but thinks there may be as many as 50 passengers trapped in cabins on deck 6. Cabins on decks 1 and 2 are for the crew, so there are no passengers down there at the moment. He's reported that all the crew at this time are accounted for, apart from a 4-man firefighting team that was committed to deck 6. They failed to report back to their entry control board as yet. So unfortunately, it looks like at the moment that they're missing. As with the ship fire, we've got 6 sectors in use at the moment. And I've got resources here. I've got 3 domestic pumps from the aerodrome, and the aerodrome appliance from Owen Robbins is also here. And the domestic aerodrome pump from Cayman Brack is on its way. I've requested all available off-duty firefighters to attend to the South Terminal to rendezvous there so we can meet the BA breathing apparatus commitments. I'm setting up a breathing apparatus sector at this moment because obviously that's quite a large use of BA. I've got 2 tugs. You might have observed those. They're boundary cooling at the moment to try and contain that fire within deck 6 and prevent spread. The sectors as we stand, sector 1 is in offensive mode with saveable life, and their brief is to try and prevent the fire spread forward and make entry into deck 6 to firefight and search and rescue. They have 1 Cayman Island crew working and the ship's crew, firefighting crew, and they're currently using 2 jets in use. Sector 2, as we stand at the moment, they're in offensive mode, saveable life, and their brief has been to search the midships on deck 6 and the cabins within that area. We've got 1 Cayman Island crew and 2 ships firefighting BA teams with 3 jets in use within sector 2. The good news is they have rescued and removed 3 male adults, 3 female adults, and 2 children from deck 6. They've been brought out and they're being conveyed to shore. They're an offensive, Sector 3 are in offensive mode, save all life, with a brief to prevent the fire getting past the grand foyer aft. So that's trying to contain it within the area that's in. Again, we've got one Cayman Island crew, one ship's BA crew with 2 jets. I didn't nominate a machinery sector as yet, as we know the fire is currently above that. Sector 4, we don't have any resources to the port side in this sector, but the tug is boundary cooling in that area, and one ship's crew without BA are also around there. Sector 5, they're in offensive mode, save all life, and their brief is to search deck 7 and to prevent any fire spread upwards from deck 6. Again, we've got one Cayman Island crew and 2 ships' crews with breathing apparatus in there. Sector 6 at the moment, we haven't got any resources assigned to that sector as yet. My tactical plan as it stands is to try and contain the fire and surround it on deck 6 to ensure that there's no lateral or vertical spread, and to carry out search and rescue as quickly as we can, and then search the other decks. Overall, at the moment, I've got 14 Cayman Island Fire Service personnel using breathing apparatus and 5 ships firefighting teams. The ship's firefighting main is working well and supplying all our firefighting jets. And at the moment, we've currently in all rescued 8 casualties, the ones I told you about, but 3 male adults, 3 female adults, and 2 children. I've got BA stage 2 set up and in operation. And I've also, importantly, got 2 tugs standing by aft of the ship, providing direct boundary cooling via monitors. And if we had to evacuate our personnel, obviously we've got those available to us should the needs arise. I'm just in the process also of, with Dave, producing an iMarch briefing sheet for you, which will enable you to utilise that at your meeting, which gives you an overview of the key areas. Dave, are you able to put that up on the screen for us?
Yeah, on its way.
Okay. Are you able to take Whitman through that, Dave? That'd be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can do that. So this is the iMarch template. Did you discuss this in some of your input, Whitman? So this is basically a document that will be shared with all of the other agencies that are responding to the incident, so that they've all got the same information and the same common picture as you. So it starts off with the information that's been provided, and that's taken from a methane message that was sent about 15 minutes ago to all the partner agencies, and that was sent when the fire service commander declared this a major incident. So that has been done, and the incident is now declared as a major. The vessel is on the cruise moorings out in the bay, just off from the harbour, and the type of incident is a ship fire on a passenger vessel. Some of the hazards are there's fire, there's persons trapped, there's an unstable vessel potentially, access to the vessel. Cayman Islands Fire Service personnel are currently being transported via the tugs to and from the vessel. There is deep water around the vessel, and there is smoke. And obviously the smoke is affecting the people on the vessel, but it's also likely to have an impact on the island as well, because there is a significant quantity of smoke coming off the ship. And we have asked for some modelling to be done of where that smoke plume is likely to go over the next 2 to 3 hours. So I will share that with you when it's available. In terms of numbers of casualties, at the moment, we're quantifying it simply as there's the potential for multiple casualties. The ship's captain is currently trying to account for all the passengers and crew on board the vessel. Until he's done that, we can't be sure that everybody has been accounted for. In terms of other agencies, the EMS are on scene and supporting us. The police service are on scene and supporting us, and we've also asked for environmental help through the NEOC. In terms of the intent of the response, the first one is to support the ship's firefighting teams to extinguish the fire and search the vessel for any casualties. Cayman Islands Fire Services personnel are being deployed to the ship via a tug, which was at the request of the ship's captain. The police are maintaining cordons onshore to ensure that emergency services have a safe area in which to mount our response from. And EMS are undertaking triage of casualties as they are brought back to the cruise terminal. The Port Authority has provided the 2 tugs which Kevin currently has access to for transporting personnel and also for boundary calling the external sides of the vessel. In terms of the method, there is a forward command point on board and a tactical coordinating group has been established at the south terminal, which is obviously onshore. NEOC has also been established and the relevant members of that are coming together for you to meet with shortly. A methane message, which we've just been through, has been sent, and it is recommended that the joint decision model and the joint decision controls are used to manage the incident from here on in. The fire service commander is in overall charge of ship firefighting on board and the shore-based deployment. There is a contingency plan for the evacuation of the Cayman Islands Fire Service personnel via one of the tugs, should that be necessary at short notice. In terms of the administration of the incident, all of those responding on scene are identified by the appropriate tabards. They are using the joint decision model and the joint decision controls for logging any decisions that are taken at the scene. They have PPE available on the ship. They have been told no food to be consumed on board, and all logistics are being coordinated through the Port Authority. In terms of the risk assessment, as regards the fire, it's fire service personnel in PPE using jets of water and boundary calling the vessel. There is smoke on the vessel and impacting the shoreline as well. There is heat on board the vessel, which the crews are protected from. Anybody working offshore is required to wear a life jacket when they're transiting to the vessel. And the tug is standing by as an emergency egress point from the ship. There is also the possibility, because of the volume of water that's being used, that the ship's stability may be impacted, and the ship's second officer is currently monitoring that situation. In terms of communications, all responders on scene are communicating via radio. There are multi-agency meetings being organised at the NEOC, which you are just about to attend, and a media strategy needs to be developed for the incident. And lastly, in terms of humanitarian issues, all the passengers have a right to life, which is why the fire service are in offensive mode and trying to rescue as many people as they can. And there is some sensitivity around the passenger nationalities. We believe there's a significant number of US citizens on board the vessel at this time. So that's the II March template. All the other agencies have the same information. So you know when you go to the NEOC that all your partner agencies have this information that you've had as well. So you're all starting off from the same level playing field. Is that okay? Any questions on that, Whitman?
All right, so can we have a little time to go back over it one more time with Drew, Dave, and Kevin?
Yeah, from sort of from my perspective, Whitman, as your tactical commander on shore, just to summarise, really, our main issues at the moment are trying to rescue those passengers that are trapped. We're trying to contain the fire to deck 6 and prevent it spreading, and obviously we've got concerns for the safety of our personnel and all personnel on board the ship. So those are my tactical objectives I'm working towards at the moment. Being very mindful of the amount of water we're putting on for firefighting, working with the ship's captain from a stability point of view.
And the location of the forward command post?
The forward command post is actually on the. We're located at the terminal, the south terminal. But I've got an officer on board the ship at the bridge who's working with the captain and acting as a forward command point on the ship itself.
Okay.
And in terms of summarising some of the risks that are there, we've got a risk board available. So some of the primary concerns currently are there's fire and smoke impacting the people on the vessel, and obviously the fire service are trying to deal with that and resolve those issues. There is the issue of the smoke affecting the island community. And as I say, we hope to get some modelling to show you where that smoke plume is heading in a not too distant future. There is the vessel evacuation, which is currently taking place. So some structure needs to be put in place around how that is going to be managed when those passengers start arriving on shore. There is the risk of pollution from the vessel affecting the island and the ocean. And there is a risk of either grounding or instability of the vessel, depending on what happens in terms of the quantity of water that's being put on the vessel. So they're some of the key areas that are currently being considered as part of the incident, and that you might want to start discussing with the group as a collective when you meet with them.
Have you any more questions for me, Whitman, as your tactical commander? I will go back to the full control point, but I'm available should you want an update or talk to me via radio, or I can come back. Dave will arrange me to come back and update you.
But for me, would we not be thinking about having using, because we have the North Terminal as well, and for those that is on the life raft and everything else, would be, in my opinion, I mean, I'm just suggesting, would you think that we should divert them to the North Terminal where we have a direct access?
Yeah, that makes good sense, and perhaps when you're at your meeting and you're liaising with the Port Authority and the Coast Guards and the other agencies there, that makes perhaps is a good point of discussion. Certainly at the moment, my focus is very much on the firefighting operations. And when the passengers come off, I think, as you say, we need to manage that with the other agencies and partners.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we can go to the meeting then.
Okay.
I want a couple of minutes just to gather your thoughts, or are you?
Yeah, let's take a few minutes here, and Dave, I can just go back over a couple of things.
Yeah.
You in regards to the weather conditions and the smoke on the community.
The weather is pretty much as it is today, so it's fairly benign in terms of there's no wind or significant rain. It's a warm, dry day, so the weather won't give you any issues at all. In terms of the projected direction of the smoke plume, if I share a screen with you now, obviously the vessel is in the middle of the bay here, and so the projected smoke plume, as you can see, is impacting on the tip of the island down there. So there's a residential population down there and some business. So that's something that the group will need to consider. Because again, this isn't something that you will resolve as a single agency. This is something that collectively, as a group, you all need to work out how you're going to deal with that and resolve that situation. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. So I think the key issues for you in terms of bringing that NEOC group together, if you just have a think about the main concerns that you would have currently in terms of the incident, they're probably kind of how to manage all of the people that are coming off the vessel will be one of your big concerns.
Exactly.
Yeah. How to manage the impact of that smoke plume on the island would be one of your big concerns, and how to manage the outcome of the incident in terms of the vessel. Are you going to leave the vessel where it is to fight the fire? Is the vessel going to become unstable? So again, there's people that will be at your meeting, like the ship's captain, who you'll be able to get advice from about what's happening to the vessel to help shape any decisions you might want to take around that.
Yep. Okay. So, all right. So let's go to the meeting then.
Okay.
First.
So the people you've got coming to your meeting, just so you know, I mean, you obviously do introductions when you get into the room, but you'll have the police commander, you'll have the EMS commander, you'll have Coast Guard Gold there, you'll have the Port Authority Gold commander, and you'll have the ship's captain as well. So within that's the group you've got to work together to try and resolve some of those issues that need to be resolved to complete the incident.
Yep.
Yeah. And I'll be sitting in the background and I'll be recording the meeting and any decisions that are taken. So that will be going on. So you just need to concentrate on chairing the meeting and keeping the meeting flowing, and I'll deal with all the recording and capturing of decisions.
All right, no problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And don't forget your JDM. Keep it in front of you.
Yep, I love it.
If you're ready, I'll open the door and let them all in.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Whitman. I'm Steve Buck. I'm the police gold commander here at NEOC. As this is a fire-led incident, we're in the rescue phase. Can I ask you to chair the meeting at this stage? Would that be okay?
Sure, accepted.
Before we begin, a suggestion is we get each of the partners here at the meeting to give a very brief situational update to the wider group. That's going to help us support each element as we go around the JDM.
Sure.
So if I could start with myself, keep it very brief. We've got the NEOC up and running now, as you're aware. The managers are in attendance. The port is currently closed to all traffic and the outer cordon is in place in Harbour Road. That seems to be secure and working at the moment. We've also got an inner cordon, and that's set at the entrance gate to the South Terminal. And I understand South Terminal building is available for casualty triage if we require it. We've also received a major maritime incident notification from the Coast Guard. I don't have any further information, but I'll get that as soon as it's available. So that's pretty well where we are at the moment. As you're aware, major incidents been declared, and I understand a methane message is available to the rest of the partners. So perhaps if we go round each of us at the meeting, that's going to give you a wider situational awareness.
Sure.
I go next, Whitman. Hi everyone. I'm the EMS Gold Commander. Just give you a brief update where I see things at the moment. We have 5 EMS units at the cruise terminal, and they are set up inside the outer cordon. We have already got triage set up at Harbour Road. And I have some early casualty figures for you if you're ready to receive them, or do you want that a little bit later on in the meeting?
No, give them to me now, please.
Okay, so using our normal codes for sort of injury levels. So priority 1 is immediate threat of life. We have 6 of them at the moment. Priority 2, no immediate life threat. There are 5 of them. And priority 3, which are minimal injuries, walking wounded, we have 1 of them. And at this point, we have no priority 0, which is obviously a fatality. Okay, so just to confirm, that's 12 casualties so far at the triage. Thank you.
I'm getting 10.
6
5,
P1s.
6, 5, and
Yeah.
1. Okay, yes, but
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably appropriate I go next, Whitman, if you're happy with that, as the ship's
Sure.
captain. If you're happy, yeah. Just to introduce myself, Dean Dewey. I'm the captain of the ship. We docked in last night as we would normally do, but this morning, just before breakfast, noticed that the fire had broken out in cabin 6073. Now, we committed crews to that under the guidance of our ship's first officer, who oversees all the firefighting operations. They then continued with a contain and maintain strategy by evacuating passengers away from the fire. And then we committed more crews to boundary call and try and contain this. Now, the big problem we've got is that we don't know how many of the passengers had actually come away from their cabins in order to either go ashore on excursions or go to breakfast. So the worst case scenario you've got is possibly 100 passengers missing. Now, we don't know that for certain yet. We're looking at the ship's manifest at the moment to see what we've got and who we can account for. But you'd need to be prepared for a sizable number of casualties missing if they are actually indeed all involved in this. So we've got our firefighting main charge. The generators are running, but the main engines are shut down. And we've also got problems that the ventilation was also disabled, which would be through normal maintenance when we come into dock. So that's our situation at the moment. We've also got the ship's second officer. He's looking after the stability, and at the moment he's quite happy with things at the moment being managed. But we do need to be very mindful and regularly monitor this, because obviously we realise there's a lot of water being put onto the actual ship's deck on deck 6.
okay. Mr. Martin?
Yes, hello, Whitman. Martin Still. I'm the Port Authority Gold Commander here. I'll give you an update from my perspective at the current time. The ship, the Celebrity Millennium, anchored in the harbour yesterday on a scheduled visit. The harbour's currently closed, and we've notified shipping to stay clear at the moment. But we do have one other cruise ship that's anchored standing off the harbour entrance at the moment, waiting to enter. So we've told them to hold that position for now. We've made the cruise terminal building available as a casualty triage. That's the South Cruise Terminal building. And the Celebrity Millennium owners apparently are sending a senior manager from the United States to the island. So we've been informed. That's it from me at this time, unless you've got any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good morning, colleagues. And please call me Terry Webb. I'm representing Coast Guard Gold, and obviously we're working under police legislation. We've got a good relationship with the captain, Mr. Dewey, and thank you, and I'm pleased that he's here at the meeting. And we have one of our officers on board the bridge at the moment who's also a stability expert as well, and they're working very closely with the ship. We have set up an immediate exclusion zone, and using the small Coast Guard cutters and ribs, we are guarding that zone to keep commercial vessels away with the support of the port captain, but more importantly, pleasure craft and press and media as well. I concur with Mr. Dewey, in terms of stability, there is a possibility of the ship rolling, given the amount of water, firefighting water that is being used. And the inclinometer readings are moving in a steady direction the wrong way at the moment. We are monitoring that. But I'd like you to be aware at this stage, and just be very aware of this, that we may have to issue a regulatory order to compel the vessel to put to sea. And the purpose of that is to safeguard the port. Bearing in mind that we are on the Paris list, we're one of the top 14 ports globally, and we didn't want to impact, there's a greater impact on that if we lose the port. It'd also be useful if we could confirm with fire service colleagues and the ship's captain that there is an evacuation plan in place to get all firefighting personnel off. And I think what we'll probably suggest is a 30-minute warning in terms of that stability, should we need to get people off the vessel and enact that. Just as I suppose this is more of a secondary issue at the moment, but it's still very high priority. There is also concern at the moment about the pollution in the harbour, particularly from the firefighting water that's discharging from the vessel. Fortunately, it's a cruise ship rather than a cargo vessel, but there is still a concern in terms of that contaminated water entering the port area as well, in terms of environmental impact. That's all I've got at the moment, Chair, and thank you, colleagues. Any questions?
Okay, thanks. All right, can we have a few minutes just to digest this and then? All right, let's start with Steve. Where are we about the road closures? For me, we would want to make sure have the roads on the north and the south available, especially the south, for clear access and exit point back towards the hospital.
Yeah, I thought that's in hand at the moment, Whitman. I've got extra police coming in to support that. So we've opened up routes for you. So that's not an issue. I've been on the phone to Human Concerns Manager. We need to think about perhaps temporary accommodation, some welfare facilities and consulate services. So again, I'll make those phone calls and perhaps when we meet again after a break, I can update you on that.
Okay. And Mr. Steele, in regards to the port and getting the north area open, that those that is coming in on the life rafts that has been evacuated from the ship that can walk and thing, that area, can we have that secured? Do you have enough secured to do? What do we need to?
Yes, we're coping at the moment with that. Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Evans,
yeah,
you have a clear, the hospital has been notified and rooms available?
Yeah, they've stood up their major incident plans and they're ready to start receiving the casualties. But like we may need some support getting the casualties from triage at the port to the hospital, because obviously I want to keep my resources here available for the incident. So I don't know if the any other members can help with that.
I can perhaps do something offline, Paul. I can speak to the Human Concerns Manager. There may be some local transport. Obviously, once you give us the information on the basically assessment of each of the casualties, i.e. walking wounded, from your triage point of view. But yeah, we can work on that for you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Chair, can I come in there, please, Chair?
Sure.
I'm just looking at the JESSA joint decision model, and I know we've gone around the table and done the situation awareness. I just wondered if we could sort of maybe look at risks and think about a working strategy. I don't know if our command support officer could just put the JDM up, and maybe we could follow that just to move forward as a suggestion, because I'm just conscious that of the condition of the vessel and that may deteriorate and we may need to make some decisions.
Sure. Can we look at that too?
Yeah, I can certainly. I'll put it up on the screen, but now I need to take it down. So if you refer to the one you've got in front of you, Whitman, but just to confirm, that's what we're looking at now. So you've done the gather information and intelligence bit from everybody that you've just been through. So the next step is to assess the risks and develop a working strategy. So that's kind of the next conversation you perhaps need to have as a group is around this box just here.
Yeah, so Mr. Webb, so in terms of you mentioned earlier about putting the ship out to sea, how would that be? Would that be in tow or under power?
Well, I'm hoping that we don't have to do that, but in terms of the risk of the vessel rolling or the fire becoming out of control, we would need to order a regulatory order, and I would rather do that under the ship's own power. I understand that the P&I Club, the ship's insurers, have already been in touch, and there is a towage available to escort the vessel out as well. But I think that's maybe a decision that we may need to look at moving forward. Not maybe right at this minute, but it's something to consider in terms of how the fire is developing.
Yes, Captain.
Yeah, obviously I appreciate the situation. At the moment, we feel we're managing, although as the Coast Guard has said, that it is a very critical situation with our stability and we need to be mindful of the water. My priority is obviously to the ship, which is what my ultimate responsibility is, but also even more so are the passengers. You know, we've got 2,000 passengers to get off and obviously monitor that. Now, if we are going to have the regulatory order, I'm going to need time, firstly, to re-engage the ship's engines, if that's going to be the instruction to move under our own power. And then we need to be able to assess what our evacuation time is going to be to fully evacuate those and then be left with whatever skeleton staff we need to maintain, obviously, a presence on the ship.
Okay, so in my view, then we should be, with that amount of passengers, we should be already starting to be evacuating them, taking them to the north terminals in order to alleviate that with some time. Then I guess the next priority would be how the wind direction in the weather to where it's carrying the plume, and if we need to do an evacuation of the local thing, or we can do a shelter in house.
Okay. So are we suggesting that at this stage the vessel stays put, I think, and then we just carry out an evacuation? So is that the current strategy at the moment, Chair? Is that what you're suggesting?
Mr. Still, go ahead.
In terms of risks, obviously my main concern is the risk that if this ship capsizes, or if it pollutes, the effects of firefighting pollute the harbour, we're at risk of the harbour having to be closed, which and if the ship sinks, that could be catastrophic in terms of costs and damage to the environment. So I'd like that to be recorded as my concern with regard to risks.
Mr. Buck.
Chair, can I come in it for a moment? Is it possible, while we've got the group together, to get an update from the fire commander on scene? I'm just thinking aloud now, what sort of window of opportunity? Are we making progress with the fire? I mean, we may be able to defer this decision for a little while, but it might be useful for an update from the on-scene commander.
Mr. Truss.
I don't know if Kevin's available.
Yeah, yeah. Hello there, everyone. I'm Tactical Commander Fire on the scene at the moment. We're making reasonable progress. Conditions on Deck 6 in particular remain exceptionally difficult for us. We've also still, unfortunately, got 4 of the ship's firefighting team are missing at the moment. We're sending in additional resources to search Deck 6. So at the moment, the situation remains quite critical. We're working with the captain in relation to the amount of water that we're putting onto the vessel and making sure that the stability issue remains stable. But at the moment, we're in a difficult situation. Hopefully, I'll be able to brief you a little bit more in about 10 to 15 minutes. But that's the situation as it stands.
Okay. So for me, let's say, okay, we have the water, we have the passengers. So if we're evacuating passengers from the ship and taken to shore on the North Terminal, then obviously we have to look at how we would go about housing them for a brief period of time. The airport is closed, so obviously that will then eliminate having the flight come in to be able to move passengers, whatever, for a period of time. So we would have to get shelters. So Mr. Buckin, we'll have to get them in some shelters in place and starting to think about when we'll be able to transport them. Contact the local transportation bureau to see the availability of getting things. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can give you an update. I understand the Port Authority have cleared the North Terminal. That seems to be working well with disembarkation. I'll get an idea of numbers while that's ongoing. Again, I've spoken to the Human Concerns Manager, so we've got temporary accommodation. That's all happening. Can I suggest we break for 10 minutes?
Sure.
I'll do a calculation. I can bring it back to the meeting. I've got a lot of other bits and pieces to do. So if that's acceptable to everybody, we can kind of reflect on where we are and we'll come back in 10 minutes.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll have a better idea what the evacuation time is by then as well, I think.
Fine. Excellent.
Okay. And numbers of people evacuated already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks, colleagues. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, Whitman, how are we doing?
Not too bad. Still a few things that, but I would want to really looking at the projection of where the plume will be going on the land. I think we, if we do a shelter in place for that, I think we should be all right for now. If depends on if the wind picks up or anything, so we would need to get some more information on the upcoming weather within the next 3 to 4 hours, I guess.
Yes, yeah. But again, the beauty of this system and being in that environment with all the other agencies there as well is that you can take that decision jointly rather than you take that decision individually, and then you're more likely to get a much better decision as an outcome and much more safeguarding around the decision. So you're not vulnerable then as an individual to having made that decision. So I say there's probably, I was listening to that meeting, and did you talk about a thing called segmentation during your input at all?
So far not. I would have to, yeah. I know the tactical commander have given me that there are 6 sections on what's going on with the
Sorry, no, this is something else. This is to do with how you manage the NEOC meeting. And what I've done from that first meeting is I've listed some of the key areas that I think the group needs to be talking about and making decisions on. So do you want me to share that with you so you can see what that looks like?
Sure.
Yeah. So if you've got that, can you see that list in front of you?
Yes.
On your screen, yeah. So what I was picking up from that first session was some of the key areas are there's a massive evacuation going on of the vessel currently, and you've made a decision as a group that all of those passengers are going to be taken to the North Terminal and processed from there. So that's happening as we speak, and partners have gone away to make that happen. You've got actually resolving the incident as a whole. Now, obviously, that rests primarily with the fire service in terms of can they contain and extinguish the fire before you have an issue around the stability of the vessel and around pollution in and around the vessel. There's how you're going to manage the casualties as they're coming off the vessel, bearing in mind you've still potentially got 100, in excess of 100 people who are unaccounted for on the vessel. Now, some of those, or many of those, may well become accounted for, but some of those may be injured or even fatalities on board the vessel. So again, that's a discussion you can have as a group as to how you're going to deal with those casualties, and particularly any fatalities that might come off the vessel. There's the community impact, and I think this is perhaps one to focus on in the next bit of the meeting. Is what impact is this incident going to have on the island itself? And there's two elements to that. One is the smoke plume and where that's going, and what to do to whether to evacuate that area or shelter in place. And again, say by working with the group, if you come to a joint decision using the JDM, you'll come to hopefully a good position in terms of that. Then there's the harbour management. See, the harbour will want to be open as soon as possible because the island relies on the harbour as well as the airport for its kind of resourcing. So there is that decision to be taken about what to do with the vessel at some stage, whether you think as a group that you'll put the fire out and the vessel can stay at the anchorage while that takes place, or whether perhaps because of the stability worsens or the situation gets worse, you may need to use that regulatory order and require the vessel to move away from the island. There's the environmental impact to consider. There's business continuity, not just for the emergency services, but for the island as a whole with this going on. There's investigation, and there's, again, a big one for this will be media and what you're going to be doing with the media. So they're kind of some of the headlines that I picked out from those early discussions that you were having with the group. So I guess the question to you with your hat on at the moment would be, which one of those would you see as your kind of next priority in terms of wanting to deal with?
Well, like I said, yeah, for certain, I mean, like having the ship, every one of them, the mass evacuation, anything. So I don't think that it would be, if the ship is that close, the evacuation of the passengers would be much easier and faster. And then that would be one less consideration to have to worry about. Yes, and then also if it's not being contained and there is a lot of pollution, we'll be making the decision jointly to take the ship away to minimize that. But first, I think we need to get those passengers off. And then in regards to the airport, it's nothing other than manpower that the aviation section can provide at this point in time, but we should have enough of the domestic players where we have neither men, so we can pull resources from them and return the aviation section in order to have the airport up and running.
Okay, yeah. So perhaps that's something you can focus on when you go back to the meeting, is how, as a group, would you make that decision around when to require the vessel to move out to sea? So you need to work out how long would it take you to get all the passengers off the vessel. What would the fire service deem as being a trigger when they're perhaps losing control of the fire? What would be the ship's captain's view on when perhaps stability might become an issue? And if you discuss all those areas, hopefully you'll come to some sort of conclusion between you around some key triggers around when you would need to make that decision to move the vessel. out to sea. And I think you've got the right people around the table with the master, the Port Authority and the Coast Guard to hopefully talk that through to some sort of conclusion. So perhaps when they come back in again, focus on that as your main priority and use the joint decision model to talk about that subject of how and when you're going to ask the vessel to be moved. And just do each of those boxes one at a time and be quite open about it and say, well, we're going to discuss now how we're going to manage the vessel and whether or when we may need to apply the regulatory order, and go through each of those boxes then with talking about that subject. And hopefully at the end of that, you'll come to some sort of conclusion. And then what you can do is when you've come to some sort of conclusion, you can test that decision by using the joint decision controls.
So one of the things that would be very important to me too is obviously what is the policy for the ship when it comes to damage with having passengers on board? Would they remain or would they have to evacuate and have some of the means of travel in the meanwhile?
Yes, yeah, and that's actually one of your key considerations. Probably before you would want the vessel to move, you would want to know that all the passengers are safely on shore. So one of the questions you might ask the group is, how long is it going to take for all those passengers to be evacuated from the vessel? Because then your thinking is, we can't move the vessel until all of those passengers are off. So that's one of the key elements of your decision making that you'll have in there. And then there's other ones like the stability, like whether the firefighting is being successful, how long it might take to get a regulatory order put in place. And all those things should then come together to help you come to some sort of decision. It might be, for example, well, it's going to take us 2 hours to get all the casualties off the vessel. Maybe when that's one of the moments we might need to make a decision around whether we move the vessel or not. But you've got the right people in that meeting to have that discussion with, to hopefully work that through.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. But use the model. I appreciate it's really brand new for you, so it's really a case of just trying it and testing it and seeing how it feels when you're using it, because it takes years to get practiced at it. So just use this as a kind of a first go and just see how it feels and how it goes for you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Yeah. Right, shall I open the door again?
Yep, open.
Good luck, women.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. With Lieutenant from Fireball. All right, so one of the main focuses is on right now that I think we should consider is how long it will take to evacuate all of the passengers that can be evacuated and found. And then also from the captain perspective, what's your procedures in regards to in a situation where the ship is damaged, how is passengers dealt with as into for repatriation?
Yeah, I mean, with regard to the evacuation, we're well underway with that. I would anticipate we're probably looking at another 45 minutes to an hour to fully evacuate the ship of all of its passengers. In terms of repatriation, obviously we would have to go through the various embassy protocols, and it depends on the circumstances once we've got them ashore, and obviously where their ongoing journeys would be.
Yes, Mr. Webb.
Yeah, Terry, please, Chair, and thank you, Chair and colleagues. Yeah, I'm just conscious. I think I'd like you to chair a decision. I think at this stage, from our liaison officer on board the vessel and discussions with the captain and the risk of stability, I think we as the Coast Guard would recommend or would require the ship to leave port within the next 90 minutes because it presents significant risk, presenting a significant shipping hazard to closing the port for Grand Cayman. And I think we're all aware of the impact of that. And also, not slightly equal priority, but second highest priority is the environmental pollution risk as well, particularly because the vessel is so close inland, and we are an island. And the impact of that. So I think that's a decision we need to look at.
So Mr. Steele, how long would we need in order to get that order to be in place?
Well, the stability calculations in liaison with the vessel, that's suggesting within the next 90 minutes if we make that decision. So an hour and a half.
And Mr. Steele, in the regulatory world, what's your authority in ordering that?
Well, we're in agreement really with Terry, the Coast Guard, with regard to this getting the ship out of the harbour. So if the Coast Guard doesn't do it, we will apply for a regulatory order to require the ship to leave the port as soon as possible. My view is that as soon as all the passengers that can be taken off the ship have been, then we should get the ship out of the harbour, and the fire service would probably need to look at getting their personnel off the ship as well before we move it.
Sure, absolutely. Mr. Buck?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. We've got a system in place now. We've been on to the owners in America, so we've got passenger records. We're making good progress in reconciling with passport control. What has come to light as well, some of the missing persons perhaps have already landed for sightseeing. So we're getting a picture. I haven't got definitive numbers as yet, but we're getting a pretty good idea. So hopefully I can give you that. I can work perhaps with the captain if he can, or the group can let us know in terms of numbers coming off the vessel, but we should be able to get the picture fairly quickly. One pressing issue I've got is we're getting a lot of media attention, something perhaps the group's going to need to focus on. As you could have, there's a lot of political interest in this and a lot of international interest in this. So perhaps if we can think about some sort of joint media message as early as we can.
Sure, and one that I think will be asking everyone to be mindful and stay aware as much as possible. Also to see how we can get the ones that a message to persons that was on the ship that came aboard for sightseeing, for them to come back to an area where we can start to process them as well and get a count, so we can get an accurate count.
Well, perhaps the Joint Communication Service we can actually give that to them. They're up and running now, as I understand it. So perhaps we can park that and they can help us out.
Sure. Yes, sir. Mr. Steele.
Just following my previous brief or update. Just to let you know, as far as your personnel, the fire service personnel are concerned, if we do decide that the ship's got to leave, and you do decide that you're not going to take your crews off of the ship, but you want them to remain on board firefighting, just to assist that, we've got a seagoing tug standing by off of the harbour that can assist you with that. And as you probably already know, we've already got 2 tugs providing boundary cooling. And should you need them, they can stay with the ship as it moves, if that's what we decide to do. That's the decision that we need to determine really as soon as possible.
Yeah. Then we should get an update from Mr. Truss. Mr. Kevin.
Yeah, hello there, Whitman. Tactical update from the ship is as follows. We're reporting good progress knocking down the fire on deck 6. BA crews continue to rescue and recover passengers from deck 6. Unfortunately, we have located 3 members of the ship's firefighting crew on deck 6, which are sadly fatalities. They've been badly burned, and they are currently being left in situ, which is obviously very sad for the ship's crew and the captain. As I say, conditions have improved slightly, and we are making good progress. So I would anticipate, hopefully, that we may well be able to have this incident contained within the next 30 to 40 minutes. But obviously, we're going to be continue our operations for some time. But that's the latest update.
My observation, and maybe you may agree, in regards to the firefighting, the aviation tenders and truck being at the scene, other than manpower, maybe they can be returned to the airport, that could be reopened, and because of the amounts that we have for the domestic and native personnel, then we can just bring in more manpower from them. Also have the 2 substations at their standby point, so that if any other incidents shall occur, whatever, we can still maintain the business continuity with that, and they can respond in relevant distance to the standby points.
Yeah, I have that as a priority. As soon as we are able to release the airport crews to get back to the airport to upgrade the status of the airport, that will be done, and I'm hopeful we can do that fairly shortly. We have recalled personnel to duty, so hopefully they will be able to relieve those personnel and enable them to release from incident and get back to the airport. With regard to cover for the rest of the island, yeah, we have appliance located at a strategic point to provide cover to the rest of the island. So that is in hand.
Yeah, and once I guess we'll all have to agree that once the ship has been determined as unstable and has to be in tow, then our firefighters for safety and things should be removed.
Can you just clarify that, boss? Sorry.
That if it's determined that the ship is unstable and has to be in tow, maybe we might be considering whether we remove the Cayman Islands Fire Service teams and have them evacuate as well.
Yeah, we're liaising with the captain on that. It's quite a critical period for us in relation to containment of the fire. And if you are having to take the ship under tow, we are aware that we've got the facility of the tugs to take our crews off. But I'm just very mindful of the fact that we've got a contained fire at the moment, and hopefully we can extinguish that. If we remove our people, then that may allow the fire to develop again. So just a tactical decision that we need to make there.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm suggesting. If and only if it's determined that the ship will become unstable and has to be in tow, then we have to consider.
Yeah, have you used the decision making model? Is there a view from the group on the evacuation?
Chair, can I just give you my update quickly, because I think it may feed into this evacuation decision we've got to make, if that's possible. Okay, I've got an update on the casualty numbers going through triage. So we've made very good progress with the fire service. We've got a lot of people off the boat. We've now got 13 P1s, so that's immediate threat of life, 19 P2s, 63 walking wounded, and unfortunately the 3 fatalities has already been updated of the incident commander. So that my calculations, we've got 98 off the ship. So I think we're making good progress in getting to a point where we're nearly fully evacuated. I don't know if anyone else can confirm that, but I think we're making good progress. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dewey.
Yes, yeah, just to confirm with Mr. Evans there, we are making progress. I think we would need probably another 30 to 45 minutes, and that would then effectively have the boat fully evacuated using all available lifeboats and means to get them to the north terminal, passenger terminal. We're still monitoring the the water issue coming onto the boat. It is getting quite critical. We've got means and methods where we can transfer water down into ballast tanks to try and buy us some time. But I think now we are resigned to the fact that we will have to move. We're going through the startup process at the moment with the engines to see if we can maintain sail under our own steam. But we just have to see if there's any damage done to the startup sort of mechanisms, etc., just in case it may not be possible to start up.
Okay, so everybody is pretty comfortable with how the thing is progressing, and it's, if we have within that period 45 to 90 minutes. Yes, Mr. Webb.
Yeah, I mean that's really good news about the evacuation being done in sort of 45 minutes. But I go back to the 90-minute warning I raised in terms of the vessel stability. If we don't make a decision to move it and it stays in place, it potentially will roll over. There will be a massive environmental impact on the immediate port area and the wider island coastline, and also the port will be closed for some considerable time. And if you look at just to give some comparison, if you look at the Costa Concordia in Italy, it spent nearly a year and a half before it was removed. So I think we need to make a decision on that, Chair, in terms of having the vessel moved out to sea.
Well, if that's it, then yes, I agree. And I think if we all can come to an understanding agreement, we should start at least within the next 10 to 15 minutes to have that ship start to be towed, or if it's not can be powered by itself, to start to move out of the harbor.
For me, Chair, if I could just add, it's obviously important to the life injuries, if there's remaining passengers, that we do try and evacuate them before the boat leaves. So I would support any plan that would get them off the boat as a priority. But I appreciate there is a window of opportunity, and when that goes, then I accept the ship's got to go. But we need to get those passengers off because of their injuries. I've got they've got a right to life. That's a priority for me.
Yep, and I do share that, and I don't think that because the ship is leaving port that we still can't be doing evacuations as it goes.
Good.
Yes, just to say that I'm in agreement with that. Obviously, it would be much better to evacuate before the ship leaves, but that will very much depend on the stability position of the ship, and if it's in risk of sinking in the harbour, then I think we've got to make that decision for it to go.
Yeah, Mr. Buck.
Yeah, perhaps it would be useful to have a look at the risk board, but certainly I concur what was saying. There's going to be a lot of disruption to the Port Authority, the whole area, surrounding area. So I would agree with that one.
So the decision will be made then that non-control bridges.
I think you've kind of got to a position now where you've dealt with the vessel evacuation and what you're going to do with the vessel. The next perhaps risk is the smoke and the impact that's likely to have on the island community, and what you might want to do about that as a group.
Can I just come in there, Chair? We did mention earlier on, we've got the JCS stood up. That can assist us. So it may be as simple at this stage as a warning in form, shelter inside. I don't know about toxicity and so on, if we can plot the plume modelling, but certainly if we can get some sort of holding statement out as a media message, that might buy us a bit of time.
Agreed.
I don't know what the other partners think, if that's anybody can think of any hazards that we've missed.
I mean, it's a bit early to say, obviously, without knowing what's fully in the smoke plume. But have you got an updated smoke plume reading, so we know which direction it's going in at the moment?
Yeah, we can share that with you. So this gives you an indication of where the vessel is currently moored and the area that the smoke plume is likely to affect. The yellow area is the higher risk, but there's the potential for it to affect the wider quadrant that you can see just in there. So it's clearly going to impact on a significant part of the island.
One element, though, what Kevin was saying, that he's making progress in terms of fighting the fire. Yeah. So I'm guessing the risk from the smoke plume will diminish with the success of the firefighting activities. So that's going to work in our favour. In terms of wind direction, Dave, have we got any likely changes of wind direction that could help us out?
No, that's fairly fixed for the next 4 to 6 hours.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Whitman, from tactical commander perspective, 2 things on that. Firstly, can you just confirm that the decision is once all passengers have been evacuated, the boat or the ship will be taken out of harbour? Is that the decision? And secondly, I can confirm that because of our success with firefighting, the amount of smoke that is coming off the vessel has been reduced quite dramatically, both in colour and volume. And I would anticipate that will be reduced further within the next 30 minutes.
So thanks for that, Kim. So perhaps then warn and inform, basically shelter would be sufficient at this stage.
Shelter in place,
yeah.
So and in regards to the ship, yeah, we did. It was a collective decision that in which some time has passed now, so it should be about time that the ship would be in tow if it's cannot be powered by itself. And well, obviously we'll continue evacuation as we go if there is a need, if all people has not been accounted for, and also whatever firefighting that can be done.
Yeah, okay. We will firefighting personnel will stay on board the ship. We have got arrangements in place with the 2 tugs that should the situation deteriorate, we will get a degree of warning about that, and we will be able to evacuate within that time frame. So we will remain on the ship at this time with a contingency that should we get a warning the ship is likely to capsize, then we will be evacuated via the tugs.
Everyone agree? Mr. Dewey?
Yeah, just to agree with Kevin, really, we're now preparing with the ship's first officers on the bridge now preparing to leave as and when we know that we're fully evacuated, because I think from our point of view we need to now get the boat away from the harbour. That will assist us with our salvage operations should we need to, with any repairs, etc., and getting this boat obviously sorted in terms of where it will go for its next destination.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm a little unclear whether we've actually all agreed that the ship is going to leave. Have we actually made that decision, or have we still got some fors and against? In which case, perhaps we should use the decision model to discuss that.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that from a Coast Guard viewpoint as well, and also if the vessel is pushed out to sea, carrying out any sort of investigation or doing any follow-up work will possibly make it more difficult because of the distance from the shoreline as well. So I think we need to work around that joint decision control, and would agree, Chair. I would suggest that.
That would also be an issue for the police, Chair, because obviously we've got a duty to investigate fatalities. I've already had the coroner's office on to me at the moment, so that is an issue that we need to put on the table.
But another one for me is obviously how far would we need to tow the ship? I mean, obviously we have the 12-mile legality to also consider.
Yeah,
So
from our
as
point of
mu-
view, we just need to clear the southern approaches to the harbour so that we don't block the entrance for any other shipping that's going to be coming in due for arrival.
So could we all then agree how far we would want to tow the ship out?
I think
In our-
we just need to be mindful as well that there are fatalities on board. So, Chair, you've mentioned the 12-mile limit. I think that's too far.
No, I'm saying that we wouldn't want to. We wouldn't want to exceed that. We wouldn't want to go through that, because after that, then we would then give up all rights and would be in the international water. So we want.
No, I agree, and I think if it is moved out, I think we need to move it out just enough to alleviate not blocking or closing the port, and also so the pollution is out to sea and reduced and diluted down, and obviously the smoke plume blows away from the island as well. So we could work out a suitable distance that would also give access for salvage operations, casualty recovery on DVI, etc. as well. So I think that's something we need to consider if we do to consider how far we take it out.
Chair, as a suggestion then, we've just seen the decision control process. Maybe if as a group we go through that at each step, and we'll end up hopefully with a consensus of what we do, and that can be recorded, of course. So, for example, why are we doing this? I mean, there's been a lot of debate around that. Perhaps if we can just complete each segment as we go, we'll actually end up as a common picture for the whole group.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
So for me then, for us then, one is that we want to ensure that the instability do not create a bigger problem for the port and discontinue business continuity and make more pollution. And then two, we can still maintain firefighting capabilities, evacuation capabilities, and have the investigations going. So there will be the four main points for me.
Can I add just, the other priority about savable life? So, we talked about doing this simultaneously. So if there's any more passengers found on the boat, then obviously we're still going to evacuate them, aren't we? So
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the safe distance away from the port to ensure that the plume is also being dealt with, that being taken away further from the coast, then that can help with that. But we definitely will still maintain the tugs and the life rafts and for evacuations and any other stuff, and especially getting changed around with the fire service men. Obviously they'll be becoming exhausted and everything else, and we need to put in fresh crews.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, that's my view. Along with the what's already been said about the fact that we don't want to leave the harbour in a permanent state of disuse, or something that's going to take a lot of money and also be out of action for a long time. So that's my main concern with why we're going to move the ship out of the harbour. I know that we've got rescues to consider and possible investigations, but from my point of view, our main concern is to keep the harbour open and to avoid a catastrophe.
So if I would ask the harbour master, then would you have a suggestion of a safe distance direction that you would prefer the ship to?
I would assume, I think the Coast Guard may want to come in here as well, but I would think that probably a mile or so off, further out from the position that the ship's in at the moment would be enough to keep the harbour entrance clear. And if we do get a problem with the ship sinking there, it won't have a major effect on the harbour.
So you would want to you would we consider going for the north, for the south, anything like that, or just straight out from the.
Well, if I can come in there, Chair, and thank you, and I concur with colleagues. So in terms of why we're doing this from a Coast Guard viewpoint, I think it's to protect the harbour and protect the environmental impact potentially. If we don't do it, the vessel could roll and block the harbour, and then we've got the environmental impact as well. If we send it too far offshore, that's going to cause logistical problems. There's going to be humanitarian issues there as well in terms of DVI recovery, salvage, etc., etc. So I would suggest that we keep it within the 3 mile limit, which is inside our zone, which we keep complete rights on in terms of policies, powers and procedures. And also we can identify one of the Zulu anchorages within the limit that puts it a safe distance, but a workable distance. So I think that will be proportionate in terms of the benefit and risk on that one.
And considering the plume, if we were able to go a little further northwest, then that would probably take the
yeah, on the Zulu anchorage, on the anchorage I've got in mind, it would put the plume out to sea in effect. So it would take it away from urbanised and populated areas. It would go out to sea, so it would disseminate over the marine environment.
Mr. Buck?
Yeah, I mean, I would concur with that. Subject to obviously, if we can mitigate pollution, we can get all the passengers clear. If we can confirm that, and obviously making good progress with the firefighting, that seems to be a way forward.
So do we all agree?
Yeah.
Yeah, from Coast Guard viewpoint, I would agree with that decision.
So at this stage, then we should be removing the ship from the current position and relocating whilst continuing firefighting and also evacuations and obviously casualty recovery and everything. Then at what time would Mr. Buck, would you consider needing to have?
Okay, well, we won't know that, Whitman, because now we've made a decision at last. We will, on this, we will pause the exercise there. You've been going an hour and a half now. I'm not sure how long it seems for you, but probably twice that length of time. Yeah. So what we'll do now is we'll pause now for 10 minutes, go and have a comfort break, get yourselves a cup of tea, and then we'll come back for the debrief. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're getting hungry, were you, Kevin?
No, I was just yeah. I wasn't sure where we were, what we were doing.
I think we did much to help him then.
Apologies, Adrian.
You know, when they're wandering off, we ought to help them come back on track, not lead them further up the hill. Let's grab a cup of tea.
Definite tea time.
Well, it's almost Caribbean-like here now. The clouds are clearing. There's a bit of white fluffy cloud. The sun is coming out.
Lovely. Yeah, very nice.
And you're
After
going
the
to Cornwall?
torrential rain we had the other day, it's
Yeah,
a
you
nice
had it
change.
bad down your way. I saw Hampshire got it really bad. Did you have it bad?
We had parts of it did, 1.5 inches of rain in Bognor, I suppose, and yeah, but other you could drive up the road where we were, and it wasn't too bad. It was sort of as is always the way, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
Supercells, that's what it is.
Supercells, yeah.
That's what they call them now, just high energy, localized areas.
And then it hit London and it missed us.
Oh,
We didn't have anything.
Big time in London.
Mind you, when you look at the conditions of the wildfire guys out in, the temperatures that they're working in, I mean, Christ, you come to a point where you think, blimey.
Yeah.
What's the upper limit on that? I don't know. It's
Yeah. What stage did you just say let it go?
yeah. I mean, it's all defend the line, I suppose, but it's pretty difficult, isn't it? Christ.
They had one of the captains on, and they were saying when they were doing the aerial bombing that about 30-40% of the product was evaporating in the air. It wasn't actually hitting it wasn't hitting the smoke plug or the fire.
No.
We just talk about how hot it's got in California, Whitman, when all the forest fires they've got going there.
Yeah.
Do you get? I don't suppose you get many wildfires. It's too green, is it?
No. We got some large ones sometimes.
Yeah.
Have some. Well, I mean, 2 or 3 acres. Not large like how those is, but large for us. But yeah, and then like my island where I'm originally from, like on the bluff, it's like really remote. But then sometimes the cow pastures and stuff, when they get catch, they can be really challenging because of all of the rugged terrain and everything else.
Mm.
And our major and worst nightmare is the dam dump. Pardon my language, but can't seem to get a good solution for that yet.
The rubbish dump.
The rubbish dump, yeah.
Have you not put that out yet?
Problem.
Have you not put that out yet?
Well, we keep putting it out and it keep reigniting. And that is very political. So anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Waste fires are a big issue over in the UK. Regular big fires. Okay. So how was that for you then, Whitman?
For the first time, a little daunting, but going through it and understand it, and with all you guys helping and everything else, I can definitely see the importance of studying this material more and not just leaving it after today. You have to continue to read it, understand it, practice it to make sure, because there's a lot of big decisions to be made, and some needs to be faster than others.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll go through now some of the delegates. So the first person you met was Kevin. So Kevin.
Yeah, Whitman, that was obviously very challenging and new for you. And you had not only were you getting a lot of information, you had a whole new way of working to get your head round. And so, naturally that was going to impact on perhaps how you came across and how you managed. I thought your initial interaction with me was good and positive. I think it's helpful sometimes when you've had a very complicated brief to, at the end of that, just summarize briefly what you've got. So, yeah, okay, Kevin, Tactical Commander, we've got a ship, we've got so many passengers, we've got a fire on deck 6. Your main tactical priorities are to contain the fire, search and rescue, and obviously mind the safety of personnel on board the vessel. So we just have a confirmation that my picture and your picture are the same, and we've got a shared view on our tactical priorities. I think that will be something worthwhile. I think the other thing as well is important, and I think it was difficult this time because your body language and manner very much reflected your concentration on this system, almost perhaps rather than the incident. So I'm sure your personal interaction with people wasn't perhaps your normal smiley, confident self. I think you
No, I mean, like I said, it is, you know, it's going through it from the beginning and then really putting it in place, like I said, for the first time. I've done the ICS systems in the US and under, you know, the bronze level at Serico and Newcastle International, and just briefly touched on the tactical and the strategic. So and the strategic was very so
So it's a big new learning thing for you. And I think when you get your confidence and when you have the opportunity to practice it and refresh it, you will get much more at ease with it, and that will be reflected in your manner. Because I think when you dealing with other partners and agencies, you came across a little bit serious and a little bit dour on occasions, which clearly isn't you, as you've demonstrated there, but your focus was on learning this new system. So I think you did very well, all things being considered, and hopefully with a little bit of practice, your confidence will go up and you'll be able to focus on perhaps, you know, getting everyone together as a team and moving forward. But well done. That was a difficult challenge for you.
And I think for me as well, being for so many years in the operational thing and just moving now the last 20 months into this was, you know, trying not to become that operation minded and trying to transform it just
Rest assured, everybody sitting in this room today involved with that can identify with that challenge when we've come off the pump or we've come away from the sharp side. And that is a difficult thing, but I'm sure you'll cope with that and develop. So well done.
I'll work on it.
Thanks, Adrian.
Great, thanks, Kevin. That's some good feedback there, Whitman. I'll come back to a couple of those points a bit later. The next person you met was Dave. So you're longest.
Well done, Whitman. Like I say, you took on a lot there, not just a new process, but I say a big step up in terms of kind of your oversight of the incident as a whole. So I thought you had a real good stab at that. It was also fairly clear that you've got a big connection with the airport because you wanted that open pretty quickly with your your pumps back to get that going again. So which is nice. But I think from my perspective, in terms of sitting alongside you and kind of as a logist or command support person, hopefully you found it useful having someone there to kind of bounce ideas and conversations with outside of the meeting, because that's a really important part to think about is what support is there for you in terms of helping you to come to grips with the incident that you're dealing with. And what I was trying to do with that was it's called segmentation, and that's the process of picking out those key topics that you need to get the group to discuss and make decisions on. And you're right, you're now taking that step up to thinking about the key strategic decisions that you need to take as a group. So it's not really now about how we're going to put the fire out or things like that. It's now about how are we going to resolve this incident as a whole and deal with it as a community and as a multi-agency response. And that's a whole different kind of mindset and language to use. So the segmentation board just kind of helps you to work out what are the key things that I need to get this group to decide so that we can resolve this incident. Because all the other partners are going to come to that meeting with their own list of things that they want to resolve as well. So you take yours there, and then collectively you can work your way through those items and come to some sorts of decisions around them. And I say the key thing to take away is not to lose confidence in the JDM and the JDC process, because it does work and it does make it as simple as possible to come to those sorts of decisions. And unfortunately, that will only come with practice now and using that process, that JDM process as your template to help you manage those discussions that you're having. So sometimes you'll be sitting in the hot seat as the chair if it's a fire-focused response. Sometimes you might be sitting in there as the fire gold because it's a police-led or an EMS-led incident, but you're there to help resolve it collectively. And the benefit of that is decisions you make collectively, that's are generally much safer decisions than ones you take individually. And I mean safer in terms of they're generally better structured and thought through, but they're also safer for you as an individual because you're not being exposed to all of the risk as an individual when you get to those decisions. So bear with the model, trust it, and keep trying to use it. Is I say take that away with you. But it was good working with you, and good to see you smiling at the end as well.
Yeah, good work with you too. Thanks.
Great, David. Some good feedback and some very important points you raised. I think that the biggest one was one of the things you said at the start there, and it's probably a lesson actually, Whitman, to think about taking away, and that was, what are we going to do, not am I going to do. So it's not how I'm going to put the fire out, it's how are we going to deal with the incident, to get that much broader focus. So great, thank you. We'll go through in no particular order, just the roll on my screen. But let's talk to the ship's captain, whose boat you took out to sea and sunk. So thank you, Dean.
Aye, Captain. Yeah. Oh, well, Whitman, welcome back to reality. Okay, it was all just a dream now. Yeah, well done. I mean, with all of the guys that we've been introduced to with the Caymans, you've all been thrown in well and truly, pardon the pun, at the deep end. And for you to take on this process, especially with the scenarios we've given you, is a massive challenge. Also doing it virtually online as well, which comes with its own sort of issues to overcome. One of the things that I liked and was really reassuring is that the secret to effective learning is self-reflection. And right from the start, you started to point out where you recognized certain things that you felt were important within that exercise and the points that you could take to move on in how you understand this process. So it was good those reflections were starting to come straight away. Just be mindful of the point of this whole process as well. And as Dave talked about, this collective decision making when you're talking about multi-agencies that will have an impact on the whole sort of resolution of the incident, and that we all can play a part in that. The one thing to remember is that you as the driving force will be the person that sets the tempo on how the meeting develops and progresses. And what you will find, you'll have fellow blue light people that will recognize this process and will be following in line, but then you could have people from other agencies who may not be fully conversant with the process. So you may need to lead them through it a little bit more so that you don't jump around the process and maybe go too many steps forward before you've fully covered the previous sections of the model. Does that make sense? All right. So people like me as a ship's captain would possibly not be quite as familiar as some of the blue light, like Steve and Martin and Kevin for certain. All right. So that leading through is an important part of this, so that you keep control, drive the meeting, and make sure that this collective decision has been, as Dave says, a safe decision and an effective decision. But in terms of you learning from this, I think it'd be a massive opportunity. And I think from what you've said so far, you've obviously taken on board the issues, realize it's not going to be easy, but as we've just said, practice will get you through it. So well done. And as I say, hopefully the next one won't be quite so daunting for you.
Thank you, Dean. The opposite side to the captain that wants to leave it was the port authority that didn't want his ship in his port. So over to you then, Martin.
Well done, Whitman. It's very much a big challenge taking on something as new as this as it is to you. But having said that, I'm sure that you've learned quite a bit from this, and at least you've put some of it into practice, and what you didn't put into practice, you're now aware of. One thing I would say to you with regard to your role as it is currently, you've got to get over that mindset of we've got to hurry up and get on with it because we need stuff to be done fighting the fire. We've got to put the fire out, we've got to get the people off, things like that. What you need to have in mind is that work is still going on even though you're in this meeting. You're making big decisions here that will drive the way that the incident goes. But you don't have to necessarily rush into them, because work is still going on. You're not holding anything up. As far as using the joint decision module is concerned, treat it as an agenda. It's designed so that you can go through the steps logically, in a logical order, to come to a joint decision. Don't be frightened to actually call them out at each stage. So, okay, gentlemen, we've done the introductions. We're going to gather information, and everyone then knows what stage of the process we're at. Okay, is everyone in agreement with that so far? Anyone got anything else to add? But let's move on. We'll go to the risks now, and just actually say it, because then everyone knows where they are. It just makes life easier for everyone. They know where they are. So you don't think you've got to keep it in your head where you are. Actually call it out. And lastly, when you come to a point where you've got to make a decision over an issue that is obviously in contention with certain members of the group, such as the moving of the ship, we had people that wanted to get the ship out as quickly as possible in case it's going to sink in the harbour, and we had other people that didn't want it moved because we've got investigations to carry out. We've still got passengers on board, and the EMS guys have got to, they don't want any more problems getting their casualties to hospital. So when you come to a point like that, which seems to be a bit of a stalemate, get the JDC up and running, the joint decision controls, and go through it methodically, in the same way that you use the JDM. So, why are we doing this? Well, from my point of view, we're doing it because I don't want my harbour blocked. So you get everyone's opinion on that. Then you go to the next step, which is what will happen if we do that, and then you'll get a few more different viewpoints, and eventually everyone will have had their say at each stage, and you can come to a joint decision, in which case you need to say, is everyone in agreement with this? And hopefully they will be by that stage, but if they're not, it has to be recorded that those that agreed and those that didn't, and you can then make the decision. But well done. You've had a good attempt at it, and hopefully you'll go away with some useful some stuff that's going to be useful to you in your job. So good luck, and it was good working with you.
Thank you. Good luck to you as well.
Thanks, Martin. I think it was a very important point that Martin made there, which was that you had Kevin as your onshore fire commander that was still managing the incident for you, and Kevin had a onboard fire commander on board the vessel. So you had staff that were dealing with the squirting water at the fire and doing the rescues. And as Martin said, that gave you time to manage the incident, and then you would go back and brief Kevin on how the change of the strategy and the tactics are. So some good reflection there. Thank you, Martin. Paul, let's move to you next.
Hi, Whitman. Well done. I said I won't go over what other people said, but obviously, it's a new learning process. So to juggle that with your own knowledge and experience, and I thought what was really good was how you obviously started bringing your awareness off the port and the harbour. You put up some suggestions, didn't you, about using the north of the harbour? But for me, the key thing is going back to that joint decision making. Is trying to keep everyone focused on the key issue, and that you can do by using risk versus benefit analysis. So we all knew there was a risk to life, and the benefits was quite clear. But when we got to some of the more difficult ones where we couldn't really get an agreement, which about the ship leaving, I think that might have helped you a little bit more to get through that process a little bit more swifter, because we hung a bit there, didn't we? So I think you have to just focus on what actually is the risk. If the boat does sink, what is actually going to happen? And if we take it out a mile to sea, what's actually going to happen then? And we did get there in the end, didn't we? But I think maybe a bit earlier on in the meeting, maybe you could have dragged that through a bit by saying, let's look at the actual risk versus the benefits. But well done. Nice working with you, and best of luck for the future.
Yep, nice working with you as well.
Great, thanks, Paul. And again, a very important point, that risk versus gain, that risk benefit analysis on that. And early on in the incident, whilst the harbour master may want it out, well, actually, if we don't do that, some people will die. Once all the lives have been rescued, just because the Coast Guard said I can't go and investigate the fatalities, now the benefit of leaving the vessel in the harbour has totally changed as opposed to rescuing life. So it's that risk benefit analysis constantly changes that you need to think about on the gain on that. Terry, let's go to you as the Coast Guard.
Yeah, well done, Whitman. Very complex incident by anyone's standards, and also very complex by using a new system, i.e. Jessup. So well done on that, and dealing with the heat as well, because I'm dealing with the heat here, but not as much. I think the team has covered most of it. The only things I would add is one, when you chair the meeting, just initially do a tour of the table, just to get everyone to introduce themselves, who their agencies are, how they speak, and just write them, just so you've got that. And then as you go through the meeting, maybe a little bit more overt chairing. So say, right, a port authority. Okay, thank you, Martin. Can we hand over now to the captain and just sort of maintain that tempo in the meeting? Because a couple of times we paused and there was this pregnant pause. So as the chair, just take a grip of that, and maybe when one sector reports on something, it may automatically link to the Coast Guard, then to the Port Authority, and then so guide it round as you're going through the JDM is the agenda. And when you're coming to or making decisions, a couple of times you made your decision first and declared it. I would suggest ask everyone to give their viewpoint first, then, because you're chairing the whole meeting. It's not your problem, it's everyone's problem, it's everyone's decision. And maybe in a little less formal talk, as Adrian will cover, get everyone's muddy fingers on the decision that you make by doing it that way. But well done, good stuff. And the first use of Jessup and the JDM, really well done. So thank you. Thanks, Adrian.
Okay, thanks. Again, two key points that Terry made there. The first one, we spoke about decision traps, a thought process that can cause a decision, and one of those is groupthink. And the classic one on that is the invasion of Cuba, because the president said, I think it's a good idea. So everybody said, let's go with it. And it wasn't. And after then, the president said, I will never sit in a meeting where these decisions are made, because the danger is you as the chair and as the fire expert say, I think it should. Everybody's going to get into that group think, well, if the fire think it should, I'm going to agree it. So as Terry said, get them to ask to give you their views first, and then you can share your view, and then you can have that group discussion if you need to. And as Terry said, the joint decision model, and Martin, is an agenda, and the same as any other meeting, you don't let people suddenly start raising points that you're going to discuss later in the agenda and then talking about it there. You can say, that's an important point about what we're going to do about media. We will cover that under developing a working strategy later on using the joint decision model, or about the fact we'll use that under the options and contingencies. Let's discuss that under options and contingencies later on. Let's carry on with this first stage. So use it as the agenda and control the meetings as everybody's trying to push their particular part, as is naturally enough. Steve, over to you.
Thanks, Adrian. Well done, Whitman. As been said already, very challenging incident for you, particularly an early use of the JDM JDC. A couple of points just to add value, really. A suggestion to use discretionary thinking. That's all amount of information to process and act upon, and that gives you a little bit of space. We broke for 10 minutes or so, but just you've got plenty of opportunities to do that. It's a bit sticky. Step and do that. The other thing I'd say is just use any visuals, maps, tools. It could even be things on media. As a level 4 commander, you'll be from the incident, of course. Gives you that little bit of kind of vision of what's going on. Dave's mentioned use a segmentation board, so you can actually got the visuals on that, things like the risk board, but that sort of thing. So, and the rest of it, what you did very well. Well done.
Thank you.
I'm not sure whether it's me or you, Steve. That seemed a bit broken there. Did everybody else? It might be my poor internet connection.
No, it was the same for me actually.
It was the same,
Yeah.
Great, thanks, Steve. For my point of view, for your first go, that was a very challenging incident. That was a once in a career incident that we've thrown at you. But then you would expect, we're not going to give you a simple task for this level of command. That's not what we've gone to all this time and effort. So, it was a very, very challenging incident right at the top of the scale. There was lots of issues for you to deal with, which you dealt with very well. So for your first attempt of using that information gathering, there was lots of some really good points there. And you are starting to think at the strategic level, which I thought was very good. So you started to talk to Kevin about, well, why we bring them into the cruise terminal? Let's bring them into the North terminal. We've got far better facilities there. We can use this, we can do this. And then earlier on, you then start thinking about, well, hang on a minute. You're not physically using my airport fire trucks, but the airport's shut. So we can't start flying people in or getting the people out without getting the airport reopened. So, so that discussion about, okay, and that's where you go back to, your role as the Fire Gold commander is to make that decision. Right, one of the things we're going to do is get the airport reopened. Kevin, are you happy to release the trucks, get the trucks away, recall the off-duty airport crews, get the trucks back on duty and get the airport open to get the assistance that you need, or the critically ill casualties to be flown to whichever hospitals that they're going to, because you're going to be starting to get all this aid and support for what was a very serious incident. A little bit, as everybody said, a little bit more practice using the joint decision model. And the key point there is that we've delivered this training to all of your colleagues in the prison, the ambulance, the police. They've all gone through a similar experience. So, if you get another incident like this, next time you're sitting, you should be understanding what everybody's talking about and understanding to show that it works, because it's all about that middle bit, working together to save lives. Very good use of the joint decision controls. When it came to that decision about moving the vessel, I thought that was very good. Lots of discussions, and actually the decision sort of changed once you started exploring the options, and from, is it 12 miles out, is it just get it out to sea, or actually let's put it there and I can satisfy everybody's needs. So I thought that worked really well. Overall, yeah, a good effort, well done. We give you final option of a voice of reply, option to reply.
Oh, well, like I said, thank you guys. I mean, it was a very good experience. Knowing myself, I will go and just don't put the book down. I'll study it and I'll continue with it. And as I've told other people, we have some systems in place here that is a little, I don't want to knock anything or knock anyone, but we don't have that single, except for in the fire service and in the aviation section, we don't have that single thing where we know exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So now this, like I said, will help, and hopefully everybody, that because there was a wide variety of people used it, will come to a common decision and say, we need more training on this. We need to say, even if we say 2 to 3 years, we need to make sure that we get the proper training and make sure that we're following this, because I did the ICS in the US in 2015. I did the ICS in 2015 and 2010 in England. And I was, like I said, I didn't go as much on the tactical and the strategic, but this is, for me, a better system, and one that I will study and try to get everyone to buy into it and implement it. And we have a airport biannual exercise, which is mandatory for the certification. So I'll hope to be able to use it again pretty soon.
Okay, there's a couple of bits that you and I need to do now, Whitman. So we'll let the rest of the role players go. So thanks, role players.
All the best, Whitman.
All right, thanks again.
Well done, Whitman. Stay
Appreciate
safe.
it.
All the best. Good to meet you.
Right, So just a couple of bits that we'll need to do. I'll go on. One will be a media interview, and that'll just be because that's part of the criteria for the assessment. So we'll do a live TV interview, but just some of the other areas. So well, the bit I want to explore is after the incident. So let's take it away from the ship fire. Let's take it away to, in fact, your recertification exercise. So what's the debrief process that you would do in the Cayman Islands then for your aircraft recertification, your airfield recertification exercise?
Well, we do a hot one, basically, sometime right at the scene, or definitely within half an hour, 45 minutes, or in order to thing, and then that would be just within the team. And then later on, there would be a big debrief where all of the agencies would come together,
right? Yeah,
and discuss what they did and what they think they could have done better, or what they observed with other ones, and then try to come to a good understanding.
And the bit, and again, this is just part of the assessment criteria, which is the debrief side of it. So that's why we're just exploring this in a bit more detail. So it's great. So hot debrief, your multi-agency, obviously, which is very important. The interesting bit is what happens from the outcome of that multi-agency. Obviously, there's always lessons to be learned, as well as celebrating what went well. So what process do you put in place to make sure that actions are followed up?
Well, the Civil Aviation Authority has some all the minutes taken, and then they send out a report which identified the strengths and the weaknesses and stuff, everything. And if it calls for, they would do. So, for example, I remember 4 years ago, we had a response time breakdown with the fire service. So that was a major finding. So all the stuff other than that was fine. So what they did was 2 months later, they did a small mock exercise, which now was only concentrating on the response time.
So a bit of deliberate practice then, as we spoke.
Deliberate practice, yes.
Yeah. On that, again, that's great to hear, and we could probably learn some lessons. Very interesting. Again, going back to, as I mentioned, we had the suicide bombing, the Ariana Grande terrorist incident at Manchester Arena a couple of years ago now, and the inquiry is still going on, and that's where they're looking at what were the actions of the fire, the police, and the ambulance, and that's why we really stress all these joint decision controls, because if you have a serious incident like that, you can guarantee there'll be some form of inquiry, and they will be looking at everybody's actions, who decided who that. The key point, though, from the Manchester Arena inquiry is they did an exercise a year previous to the actual incident, and it was almost the same scenario. And the same issues that occurred on the exercise occurred on the night of the bombing.
So
the delay in allowing the fire and the ambulance into the scene where there was a marauding terrorist. And the point there is you didn't learn from the exercise, and the High Court judge that's chairing it is really investigating. It's all well and good having these exercises. What are you doing about learning, and how do you close that loop that you've had an exercise, you've made a finding, as you've done, they found there was an issue about response, right, let's go back in 2 months' time, let's practice again, and let's make sure, as long as we're not in that learn, excel, forget cycle that we spoke about.
And during that exercise, it was noted that the communication was not coming through as fast, and the OIC was waiting on the station to receive information versus, well, here what? Start moving the process, come to the standby point. If you haven't got information by then you have to stop. But on that way from the station to the standby point, you should have received the information to which direction to turn. So that was good. They did exactly the same thing. Stall the information communication given, but now instead of waiting at the station to receive the information, the trucks proceeded. So, and by the time that before they even got to the standby point, they received it. So therefore they were able to meet the response time.
Yeah. That's great. We'll go on to now to the exercise, the last part of the exercise, which, as if by magic, hopefully, you're now talking to the newsroom. Okay, so we'll be going out live in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, viewers. You join me live now from where a serious accident has occurred this morning in the harbour involving the Celebrity Millennium cruise ship. I can see looking out that a serious fire has occurred and there's lots of lifeboats leaving the scene as well as tugs squirting water at the vessel. I'm lucky enough to be joined by the Fire Incident Commander, Whitman Tatum. Whitman, can you give the listeners a brief overview of what's happened here this morning?
About 7:30 this morning, it was reported that a cruise ship, Celebrity Millennium, had an incident with a fire on the 6th floor, and crews were then responded to the incident and carried out the firefighting and rescue and firefighting services to do evacuations.
Has anybody been involved in hurt in this fire today? It looks quite serious to us.
There was some casualties involved in the incident. At this point in time, due to not able to identification and getting hold to the next of kin, we won't be able to comment any more on that.
I understand there's work underway to move the vessel out of the harbour. Is this strictly necessary?
For various reasons. One being that to continue the continuity of the business continuity and having the port continue its business, and to ensure that the instability of the vessel or sinking or anything, which would now hinder other ships and entering the harbor and other pollutions. Sure, it was a decision we made to relocate the ship further out and away from the port entrance.
We understand the airport's now shut. Is that linked into this fire on the ship as well?
Yes, the decision was made to bring the crews from this thing. Obviously, then having no coverage at the airport, but that has all now been restored and the crews are back and the airport is up and running.
Incident Commander, thank you for your time on this.
Thanks.
And then so I'm just going to try and change my background. It's not letting me for some reason. We're not doing the media anymore. No, doesn't matter. You can let. The thing to remember if you're doing media interviews like this is always think about pity, praise, promise. So,
Okay.
pity, I'd like to, yes, a serious incident has occurred today. I'd like to express the sympathy from the Cayman Islands Fire Service to all those involved and that have been injured at this incident. So that's the pity side. Praise, I'd like to thank my colleagues in the emergency and the other emergency services that have worked really hard together to bring this to a successful conclusion, and also the public of the Cayman Islands that have assisted us in managing this incident. Praise, promise, this was a serious incident. It's too early to speculate what caused it, but there will be a thorough investigation.
Sure.
Doesn't matter what the incident is.
Yeah.
Pity, praise, but you could say that same thing for every incident you attend.
Okay.
Pity, praise, promise. So from the airport point of view, pity. Yeah, we'd like to express our deepest condolences to all those that have been involved in this tragic aircraft crash here today. Praise, the airport fire services work well with the airline and the other emergency services, and all the staff in the hospital have worked really hard to treat the patients, and we'd like to thank the population of the Cayman Islands for all the support they've given us during this difficult time. Too early to speculate how the aircraft crashed. There will be an investigation involving the airline, the Cayman Islands, the Civil Aviation Authority, and the aircraft manufacturers. But it would be inappropriate for me to comment at this stage what's possibly caused the incident.
Sure.
Fairly simple. You're brief in the media, but pity, praise, promise on
Yep.
that. That's it. Hope you've enjoyed the 3 days that we've had with Peter Stanley training.
No, absolutely. And like I said, it's very eye-opening, and I am pleased that I have got the opportunity to do this, because now it's has and continue to inspire me to continue to learn about this and to be able to apply it and everything else. And I'm very glad that I got the opportunity.
Yeah. Okay. So and hopefully next time we'll see you face to face when we
Face to face, yeah,
rather
that would
than
be
doing
good.
it over the internet.
Yeah.
Okay, Whitman. Thanks ever so
All right.
much then.
Thank you, man.
Bye then. Hello, Cobra 66467. Hello.